getting back up to speed on our terminology, our communication, having to be on top of, the communication that happens right before the snap, right after the snap. You take that for granted when you haven't played for a couple months and you haven't been in the thick of things as a team in a while. That's the kind of stuff I think as we wrap up the summer this week where the guys will feel like we got back to that, as close as you can and however many practices we had. So that when we come back here in a couple weeks, it feels a little bit fresh on our minds and we can hit the ground running in training camp.
Joe talked about, being able to work on himself kind of for the first time in off-season as far as OTAs. What have you seen from him? How nice is it for you to see him out there and healthy?
I know, that was something he mentioned months ago, is looking forward to being healthy for spring and having a real spring. And I think he just continues to raise the standard of what we expect. And he's certainly a leader of the offense and this team. And, he holds himself to a very high standard and expects those around them to raise their standards as well. And so that's, the quarterback, in my eyes, has always been an extension of the coaching staff. And it's nice. There's moments out there where the coaches don't have to be the ones saying everything. It's good when the leadership on the team can be the ones to step in, whether it be with a young player, whether it be with another player in a different position, to step in there and help make a correction or help get the drill going along. And that's usually, we'll never be complacent that way, but that's a good sign of the direction of things.
Kind of along those lines, he was just in here saying, from now forward, it's go time. I'm locked in. How important is that message to hear that from him, and B, how hard is that to kind of have that be something that's true over the course of a time when guys are away from here?
Right, and that's a great message for our team. The time for vacation was in March and April, and that doesn't mean you can't get away for a couple of days, but physically you need to come back and be in the best shape of your life when we hit training camp. And so when your leadership is making those statements, it trickles down to the entirety of the roster. And if they want to keep up, they got to get on that level. And so that's what we want as a team. That's where we want to get to. And we just got to be prepared when the first day of training camp rolls around that we don't skip a beat.
It's a young football team in terms of, years service and careers at this point. But having gone through what they went through and all the bonding, the experiences of last season, how much do you think it matured, and grizzled them a little bit?
They were in some big moments, everybody, whether you were playing a ton of snaps or just playing a few snaps. You felt what the expectations were in those moments, and you felt how big those moments were and saw guys step up and how it needed to be done, how the team felt, the looseness I think that they felt. There was I never sensed any anxiety or guys getting too tense. There was a looseness because guys were prepared. And so for the young guys who maybe hadn't experienced that as much at this level, the hope would be that they felt that, and that was a learning experience for them that they took in, even if they weren't the ones making all the plays. They saw how it was done, and they know the expectations when their numbers called in those similar instances going forward.
How contagious is it when Joe does lead by example? He's always talked to us about he's not really a big speech guy, talk a lot, but he leads by example. How contagious is that even in the off season with guys working out and not taking the vacations and doing stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean that's you want that to rub off on everybody. It is contagious, when guys lead by example. Joe, Vaughn, Sam, just one by one, it trickles through to where that's the only way to do it the way that they do it. And that's what's impressive. I try to spend more time with the defense down there in early parts of practice and just listening to those vets, educate the younger guys, and try to get them up to speed as quickly as possible, because they know we're going to need everybody, whether you're a starter or backup. You're here for a reason, because people in this organization saw you as a fit. We're going to need you at some point. We're going to do everything we can to get you up to speed, and I think that's speaks volumes for a lot of that leadership that we have.
How nice is it just to have a normal-ish offseason after the last 2 years? I mean, after 2019, that was your last time having a normal offseason.
It feels more like the way it should be, and I think our guys recognize that. Getting their bodies back right, getting the work done these last 7 weeks that we've been around. And then continuing that going into the season, now we're in it. I know we're down here in 2 days, but we're not. There's a lot of work to be done on their own. We got to be able to trust those guys to be able to come back and ready to go. But in a lot of ways, I don't know if everything is going to be normal like it was in 2019 ever again. It's always going to continue to evolve, and the quicker you can adapt to that, the better off you're going to be.
We've talked a lot about, Zach, the continuity of the coaching staff. What about the intensity of the coaching staff? Because there's a lot of leadership in terms of the players, but there's a lot of leaders in terms of the coaching staff as well. And how does that help you?
I think number one, top to bottom, our staff knows what they're talking about, and the players can feel that there's a level of expertise there, and humility at the same time, where there's that openness. You don't have to know everything. It's as a coach, you want to give off that you have all the answers, but there's times when you need to do a little more research to help guys. And I think there's a great deal of humility with our staff. There's also different personalities. We don't want 22 to 25 of the same person. You want those guys that are intense at all times, and you want those guys that are a little more laid back. And so you try to find those pieces to the puzzle and put them together. As a head coach, that's I think a big part of it is finding the right personalities to blend. Same as the players in the locker room. We don't all want all the same type of people. We want different personalities that mix and match. And I think over our time here, we found a good blend of that. And I've been really impressed with the staff that we have here.
I think after the draft, y'all talked about there being potential competition at left guard. Do you feel like that still exists, or do you feel pretty good at Jackson kind of being your starting left guard going into
Certainly, there's still competition. This is really just the warm up to the competition. This is more getting our feet underneath us. Getting back into the groove of the schemes and the language that we use. And once training camp hits and you actually put pads on, and we're practicing against ourselves, we're playing preseason games against opponents, we're practicing against the Rams. That's the time when you can truly see the level of consistency that's needed for guys to win starting jobs. And I think there's been great attention to detail right now by a lot of the guys that are involved in some competitions like that. But you have to see that consistency over the course of training camp leading up to that first game to really know where you're at.
Would you say,
Go ahead, Laura.
would you say that you've seen what you would have wanted from Jackson during this period?
I've been pleased with the focus of the entire group. We have a lot of new faces in there. Over half probably are new to us. And, that's a credit to Frank and Derek, getting those guys focused and getting a lot out of them during these periods. Some people could view, the OSP phases as pretty monotonous for O-line and D-line, but I think Marion and Frank have done a great job squeezing every ounce of work out of the minutes that we have on the field, even though you're not going 11 on 11 full speed against the defense. That can be tough for some coaches. Not our guys. They've done a great job getting those guys focused in and being able to improve just some techniques and some communication and footwork, and that's really shown up from the entirety of the group, the consistency of everybody trying to perform at a certain level.
I don't know how far along you are in planning training camp, but are there ways that you...
My favorite thing to do.
Yeah. Are there ways that you envision it being different this year for any reason, or anything you've considered tinkering or anything like that at all?
Not really. Again, some of the tweaks that we make would go unnoticed. It's just, segments being a little longer than others than last year, but nothing that I think anybody would notice. The structure of our weeks maybe is a little different because the timing of our games is different than last year. Last year maybe we had a 7-day window. This year we might have a 9-day window between games, and so that changes a little bit of how you want to structure that week. But again, nothing to the actual structure of the practice itself remains relatively unchanged. I thought we had a good training camp last year. We got what we needed out of it, got everything installed, got the right level of contact with the padded practices. This year we'll throw on the wrinkle of practicing against a different team for 2 days, which I think will be good. And so, again, I'm excited to get some work done in this training camp the way it's going to fall for us.
I feel like practices went during OTAs in terms of guys coming in from other teams, free agents, kids coming in from the college game, and they all practice differently in
Uh-huh.
those organizations, and everybody has the way they want to practice. And you guys have a very good way of going at a high tempo, but being safe about it as well. Did they adapt to that?
Yeah, I think the college guys, it's always different. Depending where you went, a walkthrough might be a full speed contact period, or it might be truly one step and point. Ours is somewhere in between, certainly. We spend a lot of time talking about that, I promise. And then, so they've got up to speed. Again, that's where the vets really step in and help those guys. You look at free agency, really, new guys in free agency has been more offensive linemen and Hayden. That's really been what's changed. So we got total professionals, with those guys on offense. And so for them to walk in and they hit the ground running because they know the expectations. Those guys have, Alex and Ted have played for Super Bowls. LC's played for Frank. He knows the expectation there. Hayden has played for some tremendous organizations and knows what it looks like. And so I've been really pleased with how those guys have fit into what we want to do and how we want to do it.
What are the next 6 weeks like for you and the rest of the coaching staff?
Just finalizing the things that are important personally for the season, to make sure that when we do come back, we're focused from the first minute. But personally, just kind of spending time with the family here in Cincinnati and enjoying it. It's really the first. You mentioned normal off season. Well, we're going to try to make it the first normal summer. Where we wake up and have coffee and spend time here in the area. And instead of, I think so often as in my years as a coach, this first day of vacation, you're booking your plans to go see this or that and get out of the city you're in. And we truly enjoy it here for a reason. So we want to spend the time to actually get to enjoy it without the stress of planning the day and getting ready for the day. And so it'll be nice just to kind of sit around and enjoy Cincinnati for a couple weeks.
Zach, you got a couple roster spots still open. Would you consider adding a veteran offensive tackle, or do you feel good enough about depth?
I think the reason those spots are open is just you never know what's going to pop up out there, whether it's offensive line, whether it's defensive line, whether it's any position anywhere. Those two aren't specific. It could be, I just named the first two that came to mind, but it could be anything. Don't read too much into that. I know that's what people love to do. And then, so as you go into training camp, if you feel like you need another body somewhere, you can grab that. And so there hasn't been a rush to fill all 90 spots. I think that can come in a lot of different ways. And that's part of the way that we'll utilize that as training camp comes up.
Still anticipate Cap with good to go for the start of camp?
I do. Yeah.
Same for Logan and T.
I'm hopeful. I should be careful to ever say that someone's going to be ready day one of training camp, but the thought is that they've really attacked the rehab in the right way. They look really good out there doing all the things. The progression has been as we hoped it would be. And so, you just it remains to be seen these 5 weeks how they handle it, but I'm encouraged that they'll be ready to go. Same. Yep. I think everybody really falls. Joe Bocci's maybe one that's just because the timing of his ACL is a little bit later. But for the most part, everybody else has been on pace.
And on pace for getting back.
Training camp, whether it's you manage those guys, they'll be out there doing some work in some form or fashion. Maybe you don't see them the first day of pads. I'm not talking about anybody specific, but that always tends to happen where maybe somebody needs another week or two just to be with the trainers and do some work before you strap on the pads and throw them into the heat of battle, just depending on the type of injury that they had.
Everything okay with Cam Taylor, right?
Yeah, it is. Yep, just he was excused today.
Zach, I think the first time we met with you after the Super Bowl here in this room, you talked about the idea that just because you made the Super Bowl, you don't get a head start on everybody. And that you guys wanted to have that message to the group here in the offseason workouts. Do you think the guys met that kind of urgency of understanding that you do have to bring it again this year to get back to where you want to go?
I do. I think that they know how hard it is to get there, and the level of urgency that's needed to get back. And I have certainly felt that in what we've asked them to do out here on these practice fields and in the meeting rooms, and feel like guys have really been locked in. Now, it always takes time to regain that chemistry that we had. That takes time to get. And so that's really what training camp is also meant for, is a continuation of what we tried to do these last couple of weeks. Going to get a lot more time with them other than the 4 hours, 6 hours that we've had with them recently. Now you get them all day. I think 10 hours for the vets and 11 hours for the rookies. So we'll take advantage of that and help to regain that chemistry that we've had over the past.
Coach, what is the next step for Joe Burrow? What is the next step in year 3? In your mind, how does a guy like that, what is the next step?
Yep, continue to be critical of yourself and the things that you can improve on. And again, continue to raise the level of play of your teammates. And so I don't think he has any hesitancy to do that. And that's what's encouraging. You watch a guy who's really got the mental makeup of exactly what you want from your quarterback. We have extremely high expectations of Joe, but I don't think anyone has higher expectations than he has on himself. And that's a great starting point for that guy that's leading your team like that.
Yeah, that's basically what he said. He's not really competing with anybody else. He's just competing with himself.
Mm-hmm.
You want a bunch of guys like that, don't you?
Yeah, he's played for championships now at every level, and that's what you want driving your ship. Steering your ship?